Hey guys, my name is Vaulsc and I would like to invite you to play in an Infinity tournament that will happen online. It'll be played on Tabletop Simulator and will be in my Discord to organize the event. Just as usual, many of you guys are regulars and you know how it works by now. You don't need to watch this big long video to understand everything. This will just be my commentary. If you just want to get straight into it, check the link description down below, and that will take you through to the rules document. And as you scroll through and read all of the rules, there'll be a sign up form in here as well, and you can just go ahead and sign up. This is an event that will take place starting on the 18th of February, which is just next week. So if you do sign up, I will give you a wonderful, beautiful opponent next week who is going to have a great time playing a game with you, and I will create a wonderful looking map that you've never played on before to play on, and there'll be obviously some wonderful custom missions and some special custom rules in this event. It is free for everybody to sign up to and join, and doesn't matter which country you come from, doesn't matter whether you're new or experienced or whatever it is. I welcome you to play. So please go ahead and sign up and talk to us in the Discord if you have any questions. Otherwise, I'll be seeing you guys in game next week for some Infinity. So let's just have a quick talk about this event and go over a few of the things that are different about it. So, first of all, most stuff is actually the same as what we normally do. We use Google Forms for signing up and for posting results and keeping track of everything and showing the pairings. You do need to be flexible. You need to be available on weekends generally, because if you need to play against someone who's on the opposite side of the world, then you can play in your Saturday or Sunday evening and they can play on their Saturday or Sunday morning. The number of rounds that will be played depend on the sign-ups. Last time we pretty comfortably got the 5-round bracket there, sort of between 17 to 50 people. If there are more sign-ups than that, we'll go for a 6th round. I do have 6 neat and tidy custom missions ready to go, which you can look up if you haven't seen them before in that Google Drive link. This will be another event where you, of course, can choose a different army list every round, but you have to stick to the same faction. You're welcome to sign up with one faction and then change your faction before the event starts if you just DM me that. But yeah, try and stick to one faction if you can. Some of the games will be streamed, and just generally everything that we normally apply to our previous events will carry on with the tradition of the old Vaulsc Infinity Tournament style. Now, the interesting stuff that I'm sure many of you guys are wanting me to comment on, you will have seen my videos recently about the FAQ. We still have had no further clarification from Ian Wood or Hellois or anybody at Corvus Belli about any of the problems that have arisen from the FAQ around declaring ballistic skill and close combat attacks sort of out of step and having them resolve later. The way I'd want you guys to play it in this event is basically how you were playing it before that 1.2 FAQ came out. So the way the game was played generally at the start of N4, where you can't really declare a close combat attack or ballistic skill attack without being able to fulfill the requirements. So you can't shoot something that you can't see, and you can't swing your sword at something you're not in base contact with. That's generally how it's going to be played here. Yes, it is possible to, do these aero baiting shenanigans tricks, and that's fine. Those, as we discovered, don't really impact the game. We had plenty of wonderful games and tournaments of N3 and N4 where, you can move to within zone of control, but not line of sight of the enemy, force them to do something basic like a dodge or an idle, and then you come around the corner into base contact with them without being hit by their guns. Similarly, if you have a model like Kodali and there's a smoke template already down, you move in so that you can see the enemy, but they can't see you, but they're in zone of control, they have to dodge, you shoot them. That's a very difficult thing to set up. I did annoy a few people with that play during N3, but it's not, that game-breaking. It's definitely not as game-breaking as some of the new stuff is with the problems with the new FAQ. So we're just rolling it back, basically. But look, really importantly, there have been some suggestions in this forum thread here by Differation, where he has sort of talked about other ways that you can solve the problem. If you and your opponent want to use one of these suggestions about how to actually, actually play out these interactions, you and your opponent are welcome to specifically use those rules for your game. It's about you, after all, okay? But if you can't decide between you and your opponent, just roll it back to prior to the FAQ and play the game as it was at that stage. And I promise you, you'll have a good time, and the game won't be riddled with disagreements, okay? One thing the FAQ told us to do was to measure the distance between a mine layer and a mine. Corvus Belli seemed to have put that in there just because they didn't like the idea of people, being unscrupulous and not really, being careful and legal with their mine placements. So they said in the FAQ you have to measure it, and I don't think that they understood that measuring it and having your opponent witnessing you measuring it does give away the actual existence of your closed information mine layer, which is not what we want. So I'm completely rolling that back. You do not have to show your opponent the measurement between your mine layer and your mine at all in our event, okay? Then there are all these other fun ones here. Last time I did a custom rules event, a lot of people got upset that I was putting on a private tournament that was optional and free for just a small number of people in the community. That really bothered a lot of people, and to this day we still can't fully understand why, but I am doing it again. You don't have to play in the tournament if you don't want to be subjected to these rules, but here they are. We're going to go through them. So with Alpha Strikes, this only affects people who are running a limited insertion style, single combat group list. The enemy can't strip 2 orders away from your pool, but they can cap you at spending a maximum of 12. Meaning that if you run a 10 order list with 1 lieutenant order, you can't have that stripped down to 8 regulars and 1 lieutenant. So you're buffed in that sense. However, if you have a list that can pump out, 16 orders because you have NCO and all this tactical awareness, your opponent can cap it down to 12. Note that normally, under normal ITS rules, they would be able to strip 2 away to take you from 16 down to 14, whereas under this version, they take you from 16 down to 12, so that is a little bit more potent. But it really only affects the annoying, egregious, sort of lopsided lists. This is actually a buff to people who find it more comfortable as new players, or just because of your strategy that you want to actually just roll out your limited insertion list with maybe Joan of Arc and a couple of tags or something like that. That makes it a bit easier on you. Okay. So pitches have a max range of 16 in this event. I think that that's fine because Bit and Kiss still are quite powerful. A lot of troopers like Danaves or Merry Problems or whoever was firing pitches, they typically weren't shooting further than 16 on their own anyway because they only had 1 burst and disposable ammunition. This is a nerf to NA2 that like to use like the Drew's Kill Hacker and Valeria Gromos, Laxmi to fire pitches from their deployment zone to your deployment zone, but nobody really was comfortable with that tactic anyway. And you can still do it just by spending a couple of orders to move up the field. It just makes that that strategy a little bit less obnoxious. And with NA2, we will be allowing them to use the tag raid profiles, but nobody else can use the tag raid profiles. So NA2 are getting a buff relative to the rest of the field, so I find that it's okay to nerf their pitches a little bit here. With Spotlight, basically it does damage now, which means that you could potentially pass your BTS saves. It's very unlikely, so this is an absolutely minute, it's a tiny nerf to Spotlight, okay? So most of the time, Spotlight will just, affect you, but there is a difference now because some models have a lot of BTS. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that 10 bots actually reduce the damage, not just the hit roll of getting a spotlight through. So this actually is a little bit weaker now, and just having a hacker in the midfield completely shutting down models moving past, otherwise you spotlight them, is not as strong. And like your Morans, which are just covering a massive area of the middle of the table, you run past with a non-hackable model, well, Jazz can still spotlight you, but at least with this there's a chance of her sometimes not succeeding. It's only a small difference though, okay? Prothion, so this really affects Shishkin and Norkius and Calibans. It's just a bit silly that they can go up to like +2 wounds effortlessly by chomping on a little person's body. With Prothion only using, the non-decharges and non-DA close combat weapons and not allowed to use an EMCCW, it's just a bit more reasonable. Combined Army are just absolutely top tier, absolute S tier, and this is one of the problems contributing to that. And by weakening this, you're still able to use Shishkin and Norkius. They're still extremely good, and I would still include them in my lists. But this sort of just takes the files their edges, their teeth down a little bit, takes the edge off it. Peripherals, you can't have more than 5 of them, and we're going to count Crazy Koalas and Mad Traps towards that limit. This only affects the top tier meta #1 Nomads list, makes them slightly less competitive. But the thing is, it's not, it doesn't nerf them into the ground. They are still better than other army lists. If I played Nomads in this event and I ran 3 Puppet Bots and a Chimera with 2 Pupniks and didn't take Morans that had Crazy Koalas, I would still consider my list to be, top field, like one of the better lists and one of the problems that the other players would have to deal with. It's still extremely strong. You're sort of taking it from 100% capacity and capability down to 90% or something like that. And that's just a rough guess. So it still keeps them strong, but it just takes some of the absurdity away. And playing against the kind of list that has all the Puppet Bots, all the Chimeras, all the Pupniks, all of the Zonmots, all of the Morans, and the Crazy Koalas, it's just so demoralizing and daunting and unfun and unfair to play against. So we're just going to tweak that slightly. We'll just dial it back. Tag raid profiles can only be used by NA2, so this is because we want people to be able to use the profiles if they really enjoy playing them, but having them available to everybody just means that, when you're playing vanilla Aleph, you're running, your Diggers and your Beast Hunter and your Marut and your Myrmidon and your Posthumans, and it's just like, with everybody having access to the same broken units, it just makes the game less interesting. It makes list building less interesting, so we're going to relegate them to NA2, and NA2 is not considered to be, top tier powerful, so this helps to bring them up a little bit, so I think everyone wins. Berserk is an ability that's typically only on things that are a problem right now, Tiger Creatures, Bear Pods, Asawira, and by weakening it, by making it so that you get less threat range out of Berserk, those units are still incredibly strong, but it's just less egregious and less unfair. If you're going to dodge around a corner and then just charge them with your Tiger Creature, you were able to do that from 12 inches away, now you can do it from 6 inches away, which is a nerf to them, but they deserved being nerfed. If you're playing Combined Army in this event, you're still going to want to take these creatures, but now at least your opponents, have a chance of not being munched on them by them as badly, okay? Total immunity, this is a little bit of a controversial one, but everything with total immunity is good, apart from maybe, Sun Ce or something like that. But the thing is, making AP work against total immunity is only a very small nerf. AP is really something which is not very effective. By halving armor rounding up, you're typically only taking a few points of armor away from something in a lot of cases, and they're still immune to flash pulses, explosive, all that sort of stuff. They're not going to care as much about, your Panzerfaust and explosive missile launcher coming out of hidden deployment. But it still helps to have armor-piercing ammunition tucked into that against those problem profiles. So again, we'll be asking feedback about this, so everybody will have a chance to say what they thought of this change after the event as well as just before it. MSV, we're going to let you discover at the same time that you move and then shoot within the same order. So your Asura can move into line of sight of something, discover it at the same time. The enemy must do something at that point, and then you can just shoot them. So it makes those 3 models in the game, Aquila, Asura, and Torontid, more powerful. But those 3 models are not considered, top tier models, and they are not contributing to those factions being powerful. It's other factions that you look at, when you're playing them. So we're going to see if this does result in people playing them a little bit more, and if they're too strong. And I can pretty much bet that it won't make them game breaking. In fact, other tournaments have tried rules similar to this, and there's really been no problem. Biometric visor also getting a little buff, just, discovering things automatically in impersonation state rather than taking a roll. I still think that this ability will suck, because you can't actually just stop your impersonator from getting into position, and then that impersonator just hits you with shotguns and kills you anyway, or gets into close combat. So it's just a small buff. I'll be asking for feedback from people as to whether it made them consider the biometric guys more, whether it made a difference. But again, this is something we can really test, and we can try out these rules without ruining anybody's day. People can still have fun. Everybody enjoyed Crit League last time. This isn't really as extreme as Crit League, so I think it'll be okay. Last one here is Endgame. Inactive turn, Endgame only rolls 1 dice instead of 2. It's still extremely powerful. It's still really problematic. I think you can ARO with it, as far as I can recall. Toha has a whole lot of issues right now. This is only a mild tweak to them. Toha also have the nerf there with total immunity, where the simumates will be half armor instead of straight armor 9 against AP, so they have a weakness. But I think Toha are still extremely good, because you've got Jan Star, and you've got all of those symbio bombs which aren't affected by this. And a lot of people are having nerfs, like Combined Army and Nomads are getting nerfs here, whereas Toha still retain a lot of stuff that's not being hit by any of these changes. So if you feel like playing Toha, I wouldn't be surprised. Alright. So that's a bit of a rundown about our special rules. Again, this is not an event that you have to play in. There are plenty of other events on Discord and online that play stock standard rules as written, ITS Infinity, which you should be signing up to if you enjoy that. This is really just providing an alternative that you are welcome to try out if you like, and have some fun with it. I've had a bunch of people sign up already. People are keen. And I do want to make the disclaimer here that when we do a campaign later in the year, the campaigns typically won't use a lot of these specialized rules, because the campaign is the kind of event that is intended to reach a large audience. We need as many people playing as possible for it to work, whereas this is an individual performance tournament where it's okay to have 20, 30, 40 people rather than 60, 70, or 80, because it's sort of more about the individual, whereas with team performance, it's not so much about faction balance, it's more about just the players working together and their aggregate consolidated results as a group. Okay, so hit the link in the video description for this document. The sign up form will be in there. Click on the sign up, and I'll see you in Discord.